As Wolfman would say, yeah, baby. Welcome to the Blue Suede Lounge, everybody. This little after-show party we like to have here. We like to hang out and just talk Elvis, talk life, talk about anything we want. I am Dan,
right.
by the way.
And I'm TL.
All right, welcome to the lounge, everybody. Now, we're excited today, aren't we, TL? Because we're not alone.
I'm just so shook it.
Yeah, not only is Elvis with us in spirit,
Yes.
somebody who carries the Elvis spirit with him everywhere he goes and sings all across the universe.
Absolutely.
We started
on Mars.
Yeah, he sings in Neptune. I think he's got a date coming up on Saturn next week.
There we go.
Yeah, anyway, we started a little show a few years ago called Elvis Now Radio at our studios at WRGG in Greencastle, Pennsylvania. And we started it with this fella, and he's a wonderful friend to us. He's actually not a friend, he's family.
That's right.
We always joke he's my twin brother from another mother, but everybody say hi to our man, Kevin Booth.
Hey, everybody, man. It is good to be back
It's
here.
good to have you back, brother. We miss you, and you're always with us in spirit anyway. You know that.
Exactly.
Great to be kicking back in the Blue Suede Lounge.
I'm glad
There we
you
go.
like the room. Isn't it great?
I
We
love
did a
the
great job
ambience.
decorating. Yeah, it's comfort. It's home.
I like it.
Dan decorated.
Yeah. Anyway, DL and I often sit around, and she hears me when I get angry about things going on in the Elvis world, and I hear her anger about certain things.
You really
Right,
do?
right.
I can't imagine you getting angry about anything.
Yeah, well, once in a while. When it comes to our guy,
Exactly.
And one thing that really pulls my trigger is the fact that people are still running around to this day saying, Elvis is alive, man. He really is. He
That
faked his
hurts me.
death.
Yeah.
That drives me bananas. I can't tell you how many conversations I've gotten on Facebook and try to talk logic and common sense to people. It just doesn't work. And TL hears me talking about this all. She'll ask me, "What are you doing?" She'll see me there
Well-
typing. I say, "I'm talking about Elvis being alive."
Exactly. Because you get into these Facebook groups. Because there really is people. You could Google it on Facebook or search it, and it will come up. And people are in these groups talking about how Elvis is alive and his twin is alive, and it just goes on and on and on. And Dan gets so infuriated. He's about ready
do.
to have a stroke.
It makes me angry. Not much makes me angry.
Well,
It
if
does.
it's on Facebook,
Yeah, it's
got
got
to be true.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a few things that do make me angry. Like if I go to the store and there's no chocolate milk, I turn green like the Hulk. I am just...
You lie.
And people saying that Elvis is alive. Now, Kevin, you and I were actually talking before the show today, privately on Facebook the other day, and we talked about what we were going to
we
share. And you and I were talking about a certain preacher, and we'll leave names out of it. And TL, you know exactly who we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, this guy, I thought maybe was a real deal, good preacher guy who really was doing the Lord's work.
Who just was mistakenly thought to be Elvis.
Right.
And
maybe.
people were saying this guy is Elvis. And I'm thinking, well, he's already like 20 or 30 years younger than Elvis would have
Yeah,
been.
He's not 80.
But I really started to pay attention to him. I started listing every song. 90% of the songs he sings are Elvis songs, songs that Elvis did. Which mean, okay, so and you're trying to deny that and he did the whole denial video saying, I'm not anybody, but, and he said his name. Never once did he say, I'm not Elvis Presley.
That's right.
And that was on purpose. He never
Absolutely.
uttered the word Elvis. Then I seen a video of him singing with his son, who is an ETA,
Oh, really?
singing
Imagine that.
yeah, singing American Trilogy in some club somewhere, and he's playing dumb like he doesn't know the words, but you can see he knows every single word to the song. So he's playing it off, and that really bothered me.
I've seen him many times. Like you, I thought maybe it was an innocent mistake at
Right.
first, and maybe his parishioners were making a big deal out of this thing because he's got the Elvis hairstyle going on. And of course, Elvis would have grown a beard if he was still alive.
Yep.
Yeah.
And all of that kind of stuff. But for myself, I listen to the music.
Yeah.
And for a guy who has been through many contests where people have said, here's a guy who's an impersonator, here's a guy who's can you tell the difference? I've never failed that test. I've always been able to pick out who was Elvis
Right.
and who was not. This guy's phrasing is nothing like Elvis.
Right.
His vibrato is nothing like Elvis. Nothing that he sings is anywhere near the way that Elvis would have sang these songs.
Right.
And I'm sorry, it's just...
Right.
And
exactly.
the excuse for the believers, those who say that he is Elvis, they say he's purposely trying to sing differently.
Yeah.
They come up with all kinds
Yeah,
of craziness.
Well, some pictures have surfaced recently, and I looked these up the other day doing some research, and some pictures have appeared of this guy earlier in his life.
With his wife.
With his wife,
I saw
wedding
that.
photos.
Oh, my.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's not Elvis.
Right.
I wish he would just come out and say it.
Yeah, just say it.
Yeah, he won't say the name Elvis.
Well,
He will
there's-
just say, I'm not anybody but
Because he's making money.
his name.
off
Yeah,
of
there's
it.
so much hype. He's became I mean, if you Google his name, he gets just thousands and thousands of searches.
Mm-hmm.
Who
and
are these people that are
He's
following
enjoying the publicity right now, and that sickens me because
Yeah.
I'm sorry, if you're an Elvis fan, part of being an Elvis fan is wanting to do have nothing to do with tarnishing his legacy.
Right.
And to say that he would fake his death, and it just tarnishes who what Elvis was. It tarnishes his legacy. We got to stop.
And number one, and I want you, those of you that do believe this, think about this. How old was Lisa when Elvis passed?
9.
9 years old.
Yeah.
She's in the house. You adore this little girl.
You're right.
She's your world. You know how much you love your Labbie.
Absolutely.
You know, a father's love for his little girl. It's something. Elvis was in this house with his little girl. He would not fake his death on a toilet.
Right.
With his daughter in the house. I'm sorry, but he would just not do that. And another thing, Elvis loved being Elvis Presley.
He did.
Yeah.
As sick as he was, and his health was really in a bad place at this point, when he walked on that stage and he sang to the millions, that was him. He loved that.
Yeah, absolutely.
He would not fake his death. He wasn't in a witness protection program,
No.
private
Exactly.
Project Pen and all that stuff.
We were discussing this on the way up here. You know, that Elvis, I love him. He's like family to me. And so this really insults me as like he's part of my family. And Elvis was a vain person. Elvis loved looking his best.
Yes,
and there's
yes.
no way he would have ever had himself found in
Yeah.
the position that he was found in.
Exactly.
And like you said, Dan, he loved that little girl.
Yes.
And spoiled her and loved her and just showered her with so much love. And there's no way he's going to
Right.
traumatize this little girl for the rest of her life by putting her through this
And
experience.
it did traumatize Lisa.
It did.
That's
And TL, you mentioned earlier, you asked, who are these people that
Yeah.
think that the groundskeeper at Graceland is Elvis, or the guy at Kalamazoo, Michigan Burger King eating a burger or Whopper is Elvis? I
Right.
think these are people who are lonely, who are just so dedicated and love Elvis so much they can't accept the fact that we did lose Elvis on August 16th. And I don't doubt their love for him and their passion for Elvis, but I think all reality just escapes their mind because they want so much to believe that
Right.
Elvis is still with us.
There's
Right.
fans like us, and there's fanaticism, and the fanatics want to make Elvis something that he wasn't,
Right.
to elevate him to a status that he never wanted to be elevated to,
Exactly.
and to even make death be impossible for Elvis.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
nobody wants Elvis alive more than
Right.
us three sitting
Of
here
course,
right
we
now.
read about it, we fantasize, we dream all the time what it would be like. Anytime TL and I watch a concert, whether it's Michael Bublé or Rod Stewart, we say, imagine if Elvis were alive there. What would he be doing up there?
Well,
You know? And-
who gets me the most is Tom Jones.
Yeah,
you know, he's
amazing.
let himself go all gray now. He comes out, he looks so nice. He's almost the same age, isn't he?
yeah, they were close to the same age.
Yeah,
I
pretty
think.
much close
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
same
and he's
age.
doing everything still that he always wanted to do, and he's doing it, pardon the pun, his way. And Elvis could have done that.
Right.
It would have been so easy for him to do that had he had the time.
Right.
You know.
Well, back to the whole thing about being alive, too. It all started, I remember back in the 80s, the whole Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Yes.
And I got a story I'll share with you guys, how I got involved with that. And it's kind of a funny story. But it started there. They said he was seen in Burger King eating Whoppers and this and that. And it's escalated. He's been seen so many places. And some of these ETAs walking around, if you're a casual fan, Kevin, by the way, is an Elvis tribute artist, but Kevin doesn't walk around 24/7 with jumpsuits and scarves and sideburns. Kevin is actually dressed as Kevin today. He's a normal person. Not that ETAs aren't normal. You know what I'm getting at.
I get you.
But to the person on the street, the little old lady who doesn't know Elvis like we do, doesn't know the walk, and doesn't know all the things that real fans, hardcore fans, oh my gosh, that's Elvis. I think he's alive.
Right. And I
And
think
they're
that's
fooled.
where the Kalamazoo
Yeah.
mistake came from, because it was a lady in the 80s that thought she saw him standing in line at a supermarket.
Right, exactly.
And I mean, you could see Klush somewhere.
There was
You think, yes.
there was a biker magazine that came out a few years ago. I forget which one it was, but there was a story in there. Someone said, you need to read this article, and they gave me the biker magazine. And there was a gentleman who parked his Harley. He was driving from Nashville to Memphis, and he drove the back roads on his motorcycle. And when he got there was a couple other Harleys pulled up there, and he pulled up beside one, and there was a guy there. And he said he started a conversation with this stranger that was on an old style Harley.
Yeah.
And he said the guy just looked familiar to him. He thought he knew him from somewhere, and he couldn't figure it out. And he said the guy had gray beard, and he said the guy walked into the store. He said, "I'll be back in a minute." And he's checking out the guy's bike and the helmet, and the guy, the stranger he was talking to, had a cap on, like Marlon Brando wore in The Wild One.
Mm-hmm.
So when the stranger come back out, he goes, "I really like this cap you have here." And the stranger said, "Well, I used to dabble in the movies a little bit, and when I saw Marlon Brando in The Wild One, I wanted a hat just like him." And the guy asked the stranger, "Do you do movies?" He goes, "Oh, I've done movies. Yeah, I used to do in the movies, and I sang and this and that." And he said, he looked at the guy and said, "Are you?" And he said, before he finished, the guy said, "Yeah, but if you don't tell anybody, I won't." So this guy swore in this magazine that was Elvis Presley. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now, could have been an angel or something. Who knows?
Who knows? But definitely wasn't Elvis.
No, but it wasn't Elvis Presley that we know here on this earth. Definitely not.
So let's talk about like the facts that we do know. For instance, we do know everybody saw, well, if you were old enough to witness Vernon's speech that he made at CBS. I mean, come on. That was a father who lost his child.
Absolutely.
And there is no way that Elvis would have faked his death and left Vernon out of the loop.
And
No.
Charlie Hodge and Joe Esposito are not actors.
Right.
And I saw the footage of them. I think it was ABC that interviewed them immediately. Joe was the one that released it, I think.
Yes.
To the news
You can see the shaking, the sorrow, the sadness, the hurt in their hearts and in their eyes. You could see it right on camera. They're not actors. They couldn't have done that.
Right. Yeah.
Now, I've often told people that you have to understand when you say that Elvis faked his death, how many people you're going to involve in that
Yes,
conspiracy.
Exactly.
The Memphis Fire Department, the paramedics, the staff at Baptist Memorial Hospital, the police officers of the city of Memphis, Tennessee. Everybody's going to have to stay silent. Everybody's going to have to be part of the hoax. And we can't keep a secret for 5 minutes.
That had to been faked even more than
That's so
OJ
true.
faked.
Yeah, I mean, this
Because
is
OJ didn't do it.
the levels of which they would have had to have pulled this off are
Right.
astronomical, and
It's
would
so
have to
true.
involve so many people.
Yeah. And I think there is somebody behind some of this that purposely does it, like the John Burroughs reports at airports and John Burroughs signing checks in Cleveland and stuff like that. And
Exactly.
for those of you listening, Elvis used to use John Burroughs incognito when he would
As an
travel.
alias,
Yeah.
yes.
And what about the tombstone? That thing still kind of baffles me how everyone goes on and on with it's AARON versus ARON and on and on and on. And that means something. I'm like, really?
It's just that Elvis wanted the proper biblical spelling of the
Yeah.
name Aaron
right.
on his
Right.
tombstone. It's pretty
It's-
simple.
It's just
His
crazy.
his parents spelled it ARON, and
Mhm.
Elvis loved to have everything exactly right, exactly
Yes.
correct, and especially biblical.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
he wanted the biblical name of Aaron on his stone. So let's scratch that one
right.
off the list.
Exactly.
And you remember the singer that wore the mask? We don't have to say his name either because he's no longer in this
No
world.
longer with us.
I saw him in concert a
Me
few
too.
years ago, and people were yelling out, "Do Jailhouse Rock, do Hound Dog." He got very angry.
He did.
He got really angry. He said, "I don't do that."
And I got to tell you, I also saw him in concert and I hung out with him
Oh, really?
after the show for a little while. And I'm telling you, that man we're talking about was not Elvis Presley.
And there's one guy that I really had a big conversation with, and he's got his own website and everything, but he won't allow people to comment anymore.
Oh, no, really?
Because I used to comment quite frequently, and now I can't. In fact, I joined the group because I was tired of trying to convince people.
You've been blocked.
Yeah, I would have been if
Wear that as a badge of honor.
Right, I do.
So
But-
in preparing for this, I kind of did a little bit of research online. I was just curious, like, when did the first rumors kind of get started? And one of them was in December of 77, a few months after Elvis died, I guess, a fan had taken a photo of what he said was Elvis sitting in his pool house. You remember that? Hank?
Yeah, yes, I do.
So I actually did not remember this
I
until
remember
Kev
it.
and I had a conversation. Then I did actually start to remember. But my first instinct was, well, how in the heck did he take this picture? Because the house wasn't open.
Mm-hmm.
The grave was opened at the time because in order to bury Elvis in the backyard at Graceland, they had to designate it as a cemetery. And in order to be designated as a cemetery, you have to allow walk-ups to the grave for
Right.
free
Yeah, visitation
to the public. So
Right.
EPE will never be able to charge for that.
Right.
Has
right.
been discussed lately. But
Yeah,
anyway, that's a
right?
different subject.
Yep, exactly.
And wording is something that these people get away with too. Like, this has been verified by Kodak that this has not been tampered
Yeah.
with. This, of course, it wasn't tampered with. It didn't have to tamper with it because it's not Elvis to begin with.
No,
It
it's not.
is.
Lamar Fike.
There you go.
Lamar-
Admittedly,
Mhm.
Yeah.
admittedly, Lamar Fike, when he was alive, said
And
that
when if you're an Elvis fan and you blow up this terrible picture because it's distorted and horrible,
Mm-hmm.
you can see plainly that it's Lamar Fike. All the guys wore the big glasses just
Right.
like Elvis, and they were
Yeah.
all still on staff for several months after Elvis's passing, aiding Vernon and giving help to Vernon after Elvis's death. So they were still there.
You know, somebody who really bothered me, and they're all no longer with us on this planet, is Bill Bixby. And I'll explain why.
Oh, yes.
Bill Bixby did 2 films with Elvis Presley and considered him somewhat of a friend. I mean, they worked together. He did, I think it was at Speedway.
And clam bake and speedway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a few years, in the 80s, he did a show called, or a 2-part series called Who Is Elvis Alive?
I remember that.
Now,
Right,
Bill
yep.
Bixby knew that Elvis died. I mean, he knew him personally. And some of the
Exactly.
stuff on the show I saw was just so crazy. And they brought out the picture with Muhammad Ali where somebody said that was Elvis. And the guy that really was called right up on the phone and said, that's me.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
that's funny.
you know, and all these people that say it's Elvis, once somebody comes out and says, no, that was me, and it's verified, well, then they just jump to the next person. Well, if that wasn't Elvis, this guy riding the lawnmower that looks like Ric Flair, that's Elvis now.
The
Elvis.
Graceland
You know.
keeper. Does anybody really know what this guy does for Graceland? Is he just the ground?
He's just a maintenance guy. yeah.
Okay.
And he came out and admitted it.
There's a
too. This
video.
is- it's not me. I'm not Elvis.
Yeah.
Once
Okay.
again, he's not old enough either.
No, not
He
old
would have
enough.
to be an 83-year-old man out there mowing the lawn. I mean, that's not happening. And if Elvis was alive, why would he want to mow his own lawn?
Yeah, why is Elvis going to? It never seemed like one of Elvis's ambitions to mow his own lawn.
No, I
And
don't
and they
think so.
morph these pictures too, where they make the artist will make it look like, well, that really could be him. But there's a lot of morphing going on, a lot of artwork put into this.
Yeah, with Photoshop today,
Yes.
it's very easy
Yeah.
to put Elvis anywhere we want to put Elvis.
Yeah,
And
I think I made you Elvis a couple
I
times
think you
back in the
did.
days. Yeah,
I'm
and I
sure
said,
you
Kevin looks just like Elvis there.
he's alive.
So I think the weirdest sighting that I discovered online, and I remembered it when it popped up, but I didn't catch it when I saw the movie, which is odd because being an Elvis fan, you think I would. But the cameo in Home Alone,
Oh yeah,
where the gentleman
Yeah.
behind, I don't know who
Yes,
that
yeah.
actress is.
Yeah,
She's at the
I know her.
airline ticket counter, and it does kind of have Elvis's features going, but that went crazy for a
Mm-hmm.
while too.
But when you blow his face up, if they
Yes,
expand the
yeah.
picture and you can see it, it really. And the guy that was actually has come forth too, and so that's me. I'm an extra in lots of
He's
films.
an extra, yeah, but it was kind of weird. He had a beard too.
Mhm.
Had a
It
beard
was darkened,
going,
yeah.
But I didn't catch that. Did you catch it?
No, I didn't. When I watched the movie, I never thought that looks like Elvis.
Yeah,
but
me
then when
neither.
I heard that story, I went back and looked at it. And said, "Well, he does a little bit, you know." But
Yeah, you could see where maybe
Yeah.
people would get a chuckle out of it, but it's definitely not Elvis.
Right.
Yeah.
it's just unbelievable. And there's so many people: the groundskeeper, the preacher, the singer with the mask. I mean, it's just never going to end. I don't know what's going to come next.
Yeah.
Back when I got started in radio, back in the early days in Hagerstown, Maryland, I was on WQCM. I would call my friend who had a request and dedication show.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew I talked like Elvis a little bit. And he said, you should call the show up one night and just do that and have some fun with it. So I would go out each week and I'd go into public places all throughout Hagerstown and I'd see girls' name tags. And I'd get in the car and write down Lisa, McDonald's, Dual Highway, Karen, 7-Eleven, Frederick Street. So when I come on this Sunday night dedication show, I will be in Elvis' voice, honey. And I would say, this is for whoever.
Yeah.
And I'd
Baby.
run down this list of girls' names, and people would hear it and like freak out. Oh my God, who is it? He said my name. Wind of this got to Gail Brewer Giorgio, who was just now writing this book.
At the time.
So
yeah.
she called WQCM and talked to my friend Dwayne. His name on the air was David Bradley, but she just come right out and said, "Who is this?" And Dwayne played dumb. I don't know. It's just he calls. He knows everything. She said, "Have you ever seen him?" So Dwayne's not a good
Oh, my
actor, but he
gosh.
started saying, "Yeah, well, actually, I haven't." He looks something like him, and Dwayne's just lying his behind off. So she said, "Do you think you could get me a real good conversation of you and this man? I'd like to get a voice print done on it." So I went over to the station late one night, and I went back in the recording studio, the booth, and Dwayne stayed in the studio, and I turned all the lights out. I became the best Elvis I could be, the best Elvis I'd ever done. And he's asking me typical questions, and what do you think of Michael Jackson, whoever was popular at the time? And I'm just totally Elvising it out. We send this tape to this lady. The next week she goes, "Oh my God, I think you've got something here. You guys have really got something." We did it. We analyzed this with a 1972 conversation that
Oh, my
Elvis
gosh.
had. We think this is really Elvis. Could you possibly get your friend? I'm going to be on the Geraldo show. We'd like you to be on there.
Good
Maybe
old Geraldo.
maybe your friend would call in. Dwayne got scared to death. He said, "There's no way I can do it." I said, "Come on, Dwayne. I'll expose it all right then and there. I want to tell the world I'm Dan Hawthorne. I'm not Elvis." Then they know this. Gail knows it. She's a fraud. Maria Columbus, Major Tom Smith or Bill Smith was a guy that was involved. All these people, they're all frauds playing on little people out there who think that wanted Elvis to be alive. And it was all, and she made $1 million on that book probably. And that terrible
she did.
tape.
And yeah, she did release the tape. And that guy, matter of fact, there was a Geraldo show. And the guy who did the tape came forward with the contract in his hand
Oh,
to
wow.
be the voice of Elvis.
I
And
was
he's-
so
yeah.
going to go on Geraldo and say, just start talking as myself. I was, hey, hi, everybody, it's me. I'm Dan Hawthorne, But
Just make up whatever.
Major Bill Smith. It's funny you mentioned that.
he called Dwayne a couple times. You boys are on to something there,
Yeah, I did a TV show with Major Bill Smith back in the early 1980s with John Buren on Channel 13 in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill Smith was there that night. Of course, he wrote the song Hey Paula, and that was about his claim to fame. And he swore that Elvis was going to call the station that night on our live TV show. So everybody was waiting.
Oh my God.
And Otis Blackwell was there, and I'll never forget it. Otis Blackwell said, well, if Elvis is alive, I hope he does call, because I got some brand new songs for him I'd like him to record.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
But of course,
funny.
Elvis never called.
If you're one of those who think, after all you've just heard, that he is alive, we'd like to hear from you.
Please listen to the podcast all over again if you think that.
Right, yeah. Maybe that'll help.
Repeat.
I think we've came to the conclusion.
Exactly.
Right.
I think we have disintegrated every bit of evidence here. We can put this thing to rest.
Right.
Exactly. So let's talk about what Elvis could have done if he had lived. Though.
Yeah, if August 16th had not happened, if he woke up on August 17th the next day, and we know the stories that he wanted to get healthy again, he wanted to get back out there, and if you look at Elvis in 1977, the concerts, they were starting to change a little bit. His songs he would pick.
He was
and this
rocking
and that.
it. He was
in
rocking
77.
it. Yeah, he really was.
Kevin, we'll ask you first. What would have you liked to see, or what do you think may have happened with Elvis?
I've always been of the opinion, listening to his final several albums, from Promised Land to Elvis Today to the final Memphis Sessions, I think Elvis was going in a country direction.
Yes.
I think that Elvis understood that rock and roll as he knew it was no longer it was no longer the force that it was before. He saw the success Conway Twitty was having in the country market, and I think Elvis would have transitioned into country music. I think the jumpsuits would have disappeared.
Right.
His shows would have changed. And of course, I just believe that ultimately, if he was with us today, he would be a gospel singer.
Yeah.
Singing Southern
Yeah.
gospel music, and he'd be on the Gaither
Absolutely.
shows with all of his
Yeah.
friends.
I can't debate a thing you just said. I agree with 100%. I don't know. What do you think?
I agree with that, but I do think he would have taken maybe a year off. Like
Yeah,
he
right.
wanted
Get
to
healthy.
do. Like Larry Geller talks a lot that's what he needed to do to go to Hawaii and find. I don't know if you want to say find yourself, but he had a lot of health problems. He had a lot of things that couldn't be solved in '77. So I think he needed to do something to try to help himself, and then
Agreed.
I think he would have come back out and then continue, because he couldn't have not ever performed again. It's what he did, and I think that's what made him the most.
Do you two think that Elvis had any inclination of just how big he was and how loved he was? Do you guys think he knew that?
No.
I don't. I think he was so humble that I don't think Elvis ever saw himself. I actually believe, because he said to a couple different people that he was afraid that he wouldn't be remembered.
Right.
Right.
So
Wow.
I really don't think he did. And another thing I think would have happened is I think Colonel Tom Parker would have been done
Yes,
would have been
yes.
done away with in the
Yes.
next year or so. There was strong hints that Elvis was fed up
Yeah.
Yeah.
with Colonel Parker, and I think they would have suffered.
What about what do you think about his love life? Like, people still say, that Elvis loved Priscilla right to the end, and he might have tried to pursue her again. And was he really going to marry Ginger?
I believe that Elvis was in love with his family, and I think he missed that original family that he loved so much. And I don't know if I really don't believe he would have married Ginger.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think so
They
either.
fought a lot. She wasn't really into the whole touring thing and
Yeah.
and that whole scene. I don't think that
They
would
were
have ever
totally
happened.
opposite,
They
really.
were.
And of course, she was so young, though. So, I mean, everybody's opposite, at that time. But when you're that far apart,
Right. Yeah.
they can be anyway.
What could have been? That's always going to be a mystery. But the thing is, and the great thing about it is, Elvis lived a short life, but he left us so much.
He did.
Exactly.
In such a short time, as you said, TL, in the past, and
I think Elvis would have really been excited about contemporary gospel music, too.
Oh, he would have.
When that started happening, he would have been like, because he was really already doing it.
He was really considered if among contemporary Christian music historians. They believe that Elvis was a forefather of that music.
Yeah, exactly.
By
'cause he
the
was-
Elvis He Touched Me album was very contemporary.
Yeah.
love it. I love that
Yeah.
album.
Yeah.
He would have loved it. He would have been on the bandwagon with all that.
So I really think I could just picture in my mind Elvis on those Gaither shows, just big smile on his
yeah.
face and just loving that.
He would have been so revered, and people would have respected him so much. And
Among his peers.
Yes.
I mean, back when
Yes.
JD was still alive and all of his heroes were still alive.
Who do you think his best allies and friends were, Kevin? TL and I talk about this. Who do you think are the ones that really loved him and really cared about him the most?
I really think, and I'll probably get a lot of heat for that. I believe J.D. Sumner probably was one of his dearest friends that he trusted as a confidant.
I believe that. Yeah.
And I'll probably take some heat for this, and I'll accept that. But I really believe that Red West loved him dearly.
I get you.
Red West came out and said the things that were written in that book were sensationalized. He apologized for the final edit of that book. But I really believe that Red West and even Sonny, Dave, I don't know a whole lot about Dave Hebler since he wasn't really around that long. Yeah. I'm going to say Red and Sonny. I really believe that those were two of the people that had the guts to tell Elvis what he didn't want to hear.
TL, who do you think? Who do you?
I agree with. Actually, I just want to touch on this. What makes me agree with the Red West comment is that if you look at Red West's history after Elvis died, that book came out, and then when it just was so bad and everything was so negative about that book, you never heard from him again.
No,
right.
It's like he went, that's it. This didn't work. I am never doing this again. This was a horrible idea, and he literally just stayed out of everything. That's what makes me believe that what you're saying.
Well, the one guy you and I have talked about, and I've learned to really respect and love even more, is Charlie.
Oh, I love Charlie.
Yeah, I think Charlie was a real friend, and I think, and Joe to a certain extent, you know, but Charlie, I think, was special to Elvis.
And I'll tell you somebody I love a lot who's a relative. Billy Smith.
Oh, I love the Smiths. We love the Smiths.
The Smiths loved Elvis. I believe Billy just absolutely adored Elvis. And again, never written a book.
Yeah. We're going to try to get a podcast with them down the road. I would really like to talk to them because they're good people.
I love the Memphis Mafia Kid videos. I watch them all the time.
Yeah.
I love them.
Does anybody remember what their YouTube channel's called? It's hilarious.
Yeah.
They're funny. I tell them all the time. I'll comment. I say, you guys are great, loving. You're funny. Keep doing it. You know, we love it.
And they genuinely loved Elvis. Billy said he would have gladly came and accepted that
award. That's a whole different podcast right there we could get on.
Oh, my gosh.
Thanks for watching.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And hit that notification bell.
We are your Blue Suede Connection.